Revelation 2395. From the 4th of July 1942. True worship. Serving in love. A joyful service in love is the right service of God, but only this is to be understood by it. Every human being is God's creature, and if one serves the other, he also shows love to the Creator, as it were, and serves him. The spiritual world can be constantly active if access to the human being is opened up to it through active love, and then it can also work in love again, that is, distribute what it receives from God and receive again what it wants to distribute. For serving with love is also the first commandment in the beyond, but it is also a truly happy activity, just as serving with love on earth also triggers happiness and true joy in people. Laboring neighborly love is therefore true service to God. Where love is missing, serving God is unthinkable, and therefore everything else that is understood by the word service is to be rejected. Anyone who wants to serve God can only do so by wanting to give Him pleasure, by doing what has been God's will since eternity, by living in love and thereby confirming His origin, thus by recognizing His origin from God and now also endeavoring to act as God Himself acts, by constantly giving love to every one of God's living creations. Then he is of the same will as God because he has become what God Himself is, love. And then he can also do the same as God does, to radiate His strength of love to the creatures so that they can exist. This only becomes understandable when the spiritual life is taken into consideration, which is independent of the life of the flesh, the physical shell. This spiritual life can only awaken when love becomes active in the human being, for then the human being receives God's emanation of love and shapes himself according to divine will. Likewise, the being to which the human being's love applies is thereby also prompted to work in love. For love awakens reciprocal love, and again a heart opens itself to God's emanation, and this becomes effective in the human being as increased love which comes back to God again. Thus the created by God demands to be returned to its Creator. This is the being's original purpose, to work in the spiritual world in closest union with God. It has distanced itself from God, but God does not drop anything that has emerged from Him and always seeks to guide it back to Himself. Every work of love is an approach to God, and consequently service in love is the primordial purpose of the beingness, because service in love is blissful and at the same time a ruling in the purest form. It is a redirection of strength, an imparting of that which flows forth from God, is received by the light-filled spiritual being and supplied to the spiritual being which hungers for light. This divine emanation, however, is love which can now be received by the spiritual being but which can also emanate unnoticed. If it is received by the being, it will express itself in such a way that it will become active in love again, and thus the strength of love will constantly increase, and every truly loving person will contribute towards the strength returning to God again. If a person serves the other in love, he also offers his love to the Creator from eternity, for the human being is God's image, he is a divine product and therefore may not get lost. God's love belongs to every single creature and He tries to convey His love to them so that they will recognize Him, and for this He needs a person who educates his fellow human beings to love, for only through love does the human being come closer to God. He should preach love and practice love. If he practices love, he establishes contact with the eternal love itself, and thus he clears the way for the beings in the beyond to reach people so that they can then work directly. This is a work of mercy which should not be disregarded. He also serves these beings by facilitating their work. And if someone connects his fellow human beings with the beings of light, there is no limit to their activity. The human being has now served with love and thereby also rendered God a service, for his care is always directed towards the redemption of the unfree, spiritual beings, and since this is only possible through active neighborly love, the human being thereby also serves God by contributing towards the redemption of the unfree spiritual beings. Amen.